will be freed given the recent execution of a Japanese hostage by Islamic State?
Well, ISIS has made it clear that it's willing to negotiate with the Jordanians for the release of the pilot. They have their own conditions. They haven't actually proposed the exchange between Kasasba and anyone of their prisoners, but they have shown that they are willing to negotiate. The problem is that the Jordanians are not certain at the moment that Kasasba, the pilot, is still alive.
Right, and if IS can prove that the pilot is alive, do you think IS are likely to agree to that swap and release the pilot?
Yes, absolutely. I think the group has demonstrated that it can be pragmatic at at times. The problem, like executing Kasasba has a cost, a potential cost on ISIS because so far it has executed in the manner that it has done. Only Western or in the case of the Japanese hostages, people from outside the Muslim world. Now, if they do the same to Kasasba, who comes from a prominent tribe and from a neighboring country such as Jordan, which has a formidable army in relative terms, like relative to the region, there is a potential cost to that. On the other hand, they have a lot to gain from swapping Kasasba with Rishaud, for example, the female prisoner they have been negotiating about.
Now, countries around the world, including Australia, the United States, Britain and Indonesia, are all grappling with this idea of their own citizens joining IS in the fight over Iraq and Syria. You've researched deeply into Islamic State. Can you give us an idea, what do these young men, I mean they're typically men, what do they face once they arrive at these IS camps? How rigorous is this training and how well organised is Islamic State over there?
Well, the first thing they do is they put them in a training camp. The training camps, we've done numerous interviews with people, and we asked them repeatedly about what it's like to be trained under ISIS. And I'll say that new recruits receive military, political, and Sharia training, and also they actually brief them about counterintelligence, so they protect themselves from being infiltrated by foreign intelligence. In terms of military training, they receive very high quality training. But military training is familiar because ISIS models itself on other like the training of other terror groups, but they enhance it in that ISIS operates as an army, a more organized army than any terror group. And in terms of Sharia, I think that's a very important factor, especially for countries outside the conflict zones in Iraq and Syria, because people who gravitate towards ISIS from outside tend to be mostly or primarily driven by religion and by the group's ideological appeal. And that's where I think the issue of ideology becomes very important.
Yes, given that is the case, governments around the world are struggling to find a solution to stop their own citizens from going and joining the Islamic State fight there. In your view, what would it take for these young men to actually rethink their plans and remain in the country and not go over to Iraq and Syria to join the fight?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be done before they start thinking about going to join the group. The problem becomes more complex when they actually start having thoughts about going there, because by that time they have at least bought into the ideology of ISIS, which tends to be electrifying, invigorating than any counter narrative can achieve. Like if you a lot of people and the clerics talk about counter-narrative and preaching moderate Islam. The problem becomes really tricky when potential recruits reach that point. So the issue, the issue has to be addressed before that. Like what kind of teaching ordinary mainstream imams teach to ordinary people, and what they don't teach them. And it's a complex issue that needs Sharia experts, but also strategic people who think strategically. Like what makes the ideology appealing to people, because it's about ideology. It's mixed with political thought, political projects, and other dynamics.
Okay, Hassan, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you for your insights tonight.
Thank you.
The International Court of Justice has ruled that neither Serbia nor Croatia committed genocide against each other's people during the Balkan Wars. Croatia's lawsuit had sought reparations, claiming Serbian authorities